Well, over 200 cities in the U.S. have legislation prohibiting law enforcement officers from detaining suspects based solely on requests from immigration and customs enforcement agents. Many of them have examined their own policies in the wake of this July 1st shooting of a 32-year-old woman named Katie Steinle in San Francisco. But none have made a change yet. And now some Senate Republicans want to use a largely non-controversial education bill to crack down on these so-called sanctuary cities.
And here is Ted Cruz talking about those sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities are wrong. I've joined with my colleague Senator Tom Cotton in legislation that would bar any federal funds from going to a city that is trying to define federal immigration laws. But the point I was trying to make, it's not just the cities that are defying the law, it's the federal government.
That is the point. That's a great place to start today's roundtable.
And joining us is former general counsel to the Democratic Party of Virginia, attorney Stephen Cobb. Also joining us, Tamara Colbert, communications strategist and national media relations director at Citizens for Self-Governance. Thank you both for joining us here on this Monday. Let's start with you, Tamara. Do you believe that what Ted Cruz is saying, do you believe that sanctuary cities are wrong, that they're defying federal law?
Sanctuary cities are anti-constitutional. Let's be clear. The very fact that they call themselves sanctuary cities already tells you that it's illegal and against the Constitution. What these city councils are doing are actually taking great risk upon themselves for violent crime. And when you look at the fact that there are a lot, 30% of violent offenders in federal custody right now are illegal immigrants. So it's great risk to those cities, and the citizens one day are going to wake up, and I hope they do very soon.
Well, before you weigh in, Stephen, I want to take a look at a recent Rasmussen Report survey that finds that 62% of likely voters, again, this is likely voters, think the U.S. Justice Department should take action against so-called sanctuary cities, whereas only 26 oppose such action. Stephen, what's your take on these sanctuary cities?
Well, first, I'm not sure what amendment to the Constitution Tamara is saying these actions violate. The sanctuary cities is a very complex issue within our larger immigration debate, and it usually comes from not these cities as a matter of immigration policy, but rather one of community policing, and that this is an issue that's driven by local and state law enforcement, because they say that their ability to effectively be peace officers and enforce the criminal laws in their jurisdictions is hindered when they're forced to play the role of the federal government in detaining and hindering those based upon solely immigration status. So it is a much larger issue. I don't really even think it's a Democrat versus Republican or liberal versus conservative issue. It's really kind of finding the right balance between the federal government enforcing the immigration laws and our local and state law enforcement officers being able to do their jobs. One of the frustrating things is while you have Senator Cruz and Tom Cotton and lots of folks lashing out at the administration and others because of this issue, you don't hear any plans, any comprehensive immigration platforms being put forward to really take on these issues and provide what I would describe as a comprehensive way of dealing with the immigration.
Well, Stephen, comprehensive has kind of become a dirty word in Washington, but he does have a point, though, Tamara. When you look at this, I mean, whether it's building a fence on the border or putting the U.S. service members on the border, there is, border security or comprehensive immigration reform, as Stephen would prefer. There isn't a lot of discussion about a way to really fix the problem.
Well, Donald Trump actually has a great solution. Let's get that wall built. One of the most important aspects of this conversation is the fact that our borders are absolutely unprotected. Senator Cruz talked about the fact that morale is low among border security officers. Why is that? Because the Obama administration has given the directive essentially to stand down. There are 20,000 people coming across the Texas border every single month. And there's no extra security. There's nothing from the federal government to add support. But in fact, they have done everything they can to actually discourage the protection of the border. And out of the 94 districts along the southern border, violent crime comes in 5 of those, 3 of which are in Texas. We need to be able to protect borders in Texas and every other state. And I don't see the will from the Obama administration or those on Capitol Hill from either party, really,
Yeah.
That's why they've attacked Donald Trump.
But Donald also said...
One of the problems here is the hyperbole and demagoguery that goes around this issue. And here you get to the dichotomy that I was just talking about. Tamara was talking about violent crime and where it takes place. Well, those with the best understanding of how to prevent that, I would assume, are our local and state police organizations. Now, it is most of these associations that have come out against the type of actions and enforcement of ICE requests, and says that actually hinders their ability to do criminal policing. I am not an expert on police
All right, well,
tactics,
Stephen, we'll have to take a break there.
and whatnot, but I defer to their expertise on the issue.
All right, we'll have to take a break there, guys. We're going to go to a short commercial break real quick. We'll come back and continue our roundtable discussion on immigration, and we'll also talk about Donald Trump, of course. Welcome back for part two of our roundtable. Joining us is Stephen Cobb and Tamara Colbert, communication strategist for Citizens for Self-Governance. It's great to have both of you back with us. Stephen, I want to let you wrap up because we had to go to commercial break, then we'll get a rebuttal from Tamara there, and we'll continue on with our discussion about Donald Trump. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that some deference needs to be shown to local and state law enforcement. I'm not an expert on these issues, but they say that enforcing ICE directives also often inhibits their ability to be community policers. And so if one of the things that we're focusing on is how to stop violent crime in these areas, I show a lot of deference to those associations representing police and law enforcement that have come out and on those issues. And they've come out almost unanimously to say that asking local and state law enforcement officials to, in effect, do ICE's job for them inhibits their job to enforce state and local laws.
But we see the impact, though, right, Tamara, in San Francisco. This is like the worst case scenario of what can go wrong in these types of situations.
Actually, there are hundreds of families who have lost loved ones from illegal alien violence across this nation. So try telling them that, oh, I'm sorry, the local law enforcement shouldn't be picking up the pieces for federal law enforcement trying to enforce immigration laws. I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it for the loss of a loved one. And Stephen's way off base in the same way that 200 plus town councils or elected officials are way off base in giving safe harbor to illegal alien criminals. I'm sorry.
Well, we know this part of the debate. We know this part of the debate.
I'm not talking about an amendment. I'm talking about the fact that the word illegal is used. These people are here illegally. That means they broke the law. They did not check in. They do not have a green card. They are here illegally. That is anti-constitutional, and we should be doing everything we can to protect the American citizen, especially from criminal aliens.
Well, some of those family members
Well,
that
I
you
think the only
talked
thing
about.
we
Hold
learned
on,
here that
Stephen.
Tamara doesn't know what anti-constitutional means.
All right, well, let's move on, and we can have a constitutional debate perhaps another time, but we do want to talk about some other topics as well. That includes Donald Trump. Many of those family members that Tamara was just mentioning there were there with Donald Trump as he made speeches in Las Vegas and Arizona over the weekend. But he is, again, hinting that he will not run as a third-party candidate. We want to take a look at what this could mean for both parties here. Another theme from today's show. This is what Trump had to say to CNN's Anderson Cooper.
The best way of defeating the Democrats, and probably Hillary, I think it's going to be Hillary, is to run as a Republican. If I do the third-party thing, it would be, I think, very bad for the Republicans. I think it would be very bad in terms of beating the Democrats, and we have to win.
Stephen, what do you think? Do you think he's going to stay as a Republican, even if, you know, his chances may be better running as an independent?
I think we're going to know very soon whether or not he actually goes forward and fills out his complete financial interest disclosure forms. I think that's going to be a big first step to him to committing to being a Republican and a part of those primaries and debates. So long as he sees his name at the top of Republican polls and primaries, I think he'll stay in. I don't see a path to victory for him either in the Republican primary or as a third-party candidate. But I anticipate him staying in as a Republican unless something drastic changes.
Tamara, some folks have pointed out the fact that Trump donated to Hillary Clinton's Senate campaign and the fact that he one time supported a single-payer health care systems as reasons why it might not work out so well for him as a Republican candidate. You seem to support him and like what he has to say. Is all that water under the bridge? Are you willing to back him despite some things that he said in his past?
Ronald Reagan was a Democrat too. Everybody gets an opportunity to see the light, if you will, in their political career and wake up to true constitutionalism and go from being a Democrat to a Republican. I don't have a problem with Donald Trump contributing to either party, which we can see he's contributed to both parties, and both parties have asked him for endorsements over the past. What I care about is the here and now, and what the grassroots are saying is very important. Donald Trump is the only person, not a politician, but the only person who has spoken up and elevated the dialogue. And what we're seeing is the Democrats' heads spinning, because what's happening with Donald Trump is he has suddenly jettisoned to the top of the Republican field. He doesn't owe anybody anything, and he has changed the dialogue in America to one of hiding the truth, which the mainstream media are complicit in, hiding the facts of what's happening with the criminal illegals in our nation. Donald Trump has single-handedly elevated that. He's set a very high bar for all the candidates right now.
So, Tamara, you said that he has Democrats head spinning, but there are some Republicans there that aren't really on the Trump bandwagon necessarily. Rick Perry has spoken out against him. Jeb Bush has spoken out. Lindsey Graham. Stephen, is he going to help or hurt the GOP?
I'm going to disagree with Tamara on one big issue here, which is to say that he might be getting a lot of press coverage, but the one thing Donald Trump is not doing is elevating the debate. And I think that's you can see that in the comments of Jeb Bush and George Pataki. These are serious issues, and they require and demand serious people talking about them. And that is not what Donald Trump is doing. And I think so long as he continues to speak off the cuff in this matter, he's going to be a thorn in the side of a lot of Republicans.
All right, well, we will continue to keep talking about what Donald Trump is talking about, because it does have a lot of interest involved. Stephen Cobb, Tamara, thank you so much for being with us.